Hello and welcome to the Widow's Oil. Today, I just want to share a few thoughts with you regarding what is going on in the world and Christianity today. In my previous video, I spoke about the movie Jurassic Park, and I said how there is so much terror in our world today, and I used the T-Rex dinosaur as a symbol of the system. It's not specific people, it is the system that is terrorizing us. But now I want to speak further to Christians, and I want to say to you, if you think of this movie, and by the way, I do not stand for evolution. I am using this movie as a modern day parable of what is going on in our world, because this is how the world is looking now to us. Now, those of you that are old enough, I'm in my 50s. If you are my age, you will know this movie. And in this movie, when we watch this movie, we sort of think of this T-Rex as the biggest threat there was. But if you watch the movie, you will know that the T-Rex actually was not the biggest danger. He couldn't see the people when they were, if you stood still. So he wasn't the biggest danger, but people think of him as the biggest danger. The biggest danger was actually what was called the velociraptors. And what I want to tell Christians is, you need to think now with me. We are being shown this thing and we are terrified, you see, but we do not realize that the real danger is something else. And I'm going to call it's in the kitchen, because there is a famous scene which I will show to you of those raptors where they terrify those children in the kitchen. And as I speak, I will show you that clip. But I want to firstly remind you of Jesus's words in Luke 21, where he said, "Take heed that you be not deceived, for many will come in my name, saying, I am he, and the time draws near." And then he says, when you hear of the wars and the commotions, do not be terrified. Now, in the world at the moment, we see Christians terrified. Look what it says. They'll say, I'm he. In other words, there'll be a false Christ or a false Messiah. They'll claim to be the Messiah, and they'll say the time draws near. Now, I want you to focus on this, because this is actually the modern movement coming to say it's the end times. The end times have drawn upon us. Jesus didn't just say be careful of false messiahs. He said be careful of those that say the time is near, the time is at hand for the end times. And then he said, when you hear all these things, don't be terrified. Now, this T-Rex is making people terrified, because they are all looking out there at all the system that is going on like that. But the problem lies in our kitchen, Christian, in our kitchen. Let's have a look at this while I speak to you, at this terrifying scene of the velociraptors that came and terrified the children in the kitchen, because that is what I want to speak to you today, and that is what Jesus tells us. The problem is not out there, people. Everybody is looking for an antichrist out there. Jesus said, when they tell you about me, lo, look here, look there, he's in the wilderness, he's in the secret rooms, saying there is the Messiah. Do not listen, because the kingdom of God is within you. Likewise, everybody is looking for the antichrist out there, saying he's this or he's that, or they see him everywhere, because he is everywhere, because it's spiritual that you see him with your spiritual eyes. But the problem is no one is remembering what the Lord said. He taught us that we are the temple, and the Antichrist sits in the temple. The Antichrist is preaching in the church, people. He's in our kitchen, in the place where our spiritual food is being prepared. And that is why the children are terrified, because they are hearing doctrines telling them it's the end times. We are being deceived, just as Jesus said, in our very, very kitchen. And I will try and make more videos to explain what I see. For example, Paul told Timothy to study and show himself approved. And in that very book where he wrote to Timothy, he said, God has not given us a spirit of fear. Now, what I see in this world is a spirit of fear. So I think what Paul was also saying is that we must study so that we have the correct doctrine. Otherwise, Satan can use the spirit of fear to terrify us. So today, I just want to show you that we have false doctrine. The children represent believers. Let us look what Jesus said to us. Jesus said to us, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. Jesus is the bread of life. Then Jesus also told us, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And then the disciples understood what is the leaven of the Pharisees, the doctrine of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Jesus also told us a parable, the parable of the leaven. He said, the kingdom of heaven is like to a woman which took and hid 3 measures of leaven until it was all leavened. Now, he spoke this in a part where he warned against the wheat and the tares. He warned against the tares. He was also speaking of the kingdom, how it would grow from a little mustard seed. Likewise, leaven in the kingdom has a positive meaning the kingdom will grow. But I believe it actually has a negative warning to us, because leaven in the Bible has a negative symbolism. So Jesus is telling us from the start, when he came, there was leaven hidden, which has gone through, and everything is leavened now. That is why our kitchen is leavened with this doctrine. They've come into our kitchen, these hunters, and they are hunting us by this false teaching that is in the church. Now, I hope the Lord will allow me to elaborate on that next week. But I need people to understand this. The Antichrist sitting in the temple is the false teaching that's right in the church through the wolves in sheep's clothing. And people should start to understand this and start to understand what is this terrible leaven that is among us.